Dear guests, dear colleagues, dear students, welcome to another episode of Café Artistique. Café Artistique is hosted and organized by the Faculty of Creative Industries at BSBI Hamburg campus. It is our faculty's live streaming platform where creative minds come together and then they share their perspectives with us and with our students. Today we have a very interesting artist with us, Penny Monogiou. Welcome. And Penny is a Hamburg-based contemporary artist, and her artistic journey connects different cultural landscapes, and you are going to see that it is very out of the box. It is interesting because her work breeds classical references with contemporary expressions, drawing from ancient traditions, iconography that we are going to talk in details. It's very interesting. And her work continues to engage and challenges audiences with some topics like art and terror. Dear Penny, welcome to Café Artistique. It's a big honor for us to host you here today. Thank you very much. Hamburg is very sunny today, and as you can see, even though it's sunny, we have lots of interested and engaged audience today. Thank you. So I will start with a very conventional question. Can you please introduce yourself and then tell a little bit about your journey in the artistic track?
Also from my side, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for being here on such a sunny day. I'm really glad to have the opportunity talking about my art, because I believe also art should engage with society. So this format gives me this opportunity to do that. My name is Penny. I'm Cypriot. I was born in Cyprus, in Limassol, 1989. And I studied in Athens painting and icon painting from 2007 to 2012. Then I was studying during the financial crisis, which shaped me as a person and also shaped the way I paint. And then I just wanted to go away from a society of Cyprus that is also a bit conservative and find my own way as an artist and also as a woman in another country. And I decided to move 2013 in Hamburg, Germany, the city I visited with my mother 2011, and I was amazed by Hamburg, by its atmosphere, and also the water element is for me really important because of Cyprus. And since then I'm living here and I'm working as an artist. I had the opportunity to work in a gallery, so I committed with the art world of Hamburg in this way because I didn't study here. And now, since 2019, I say now, but it's a lot of years actually, I'm doing my PhD and I'm finishing it this year at the Leuphana University in Lüneburg on the subject that we're going to talk also about, art and terrorism. Yes.
Cool. So you know how they call Hamburg? They say Hamburg meine Perle,
Yes.
so mein pearl. We do believe at BSBI that Hamburg is a very good destination to study, and probably you will agree with that. So that's why we have lots of students coming from different parts of the world, actually exploring Hamburg and studying here. And you study in Athens, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit how it affected your art to be born in Cyprus, then studied in Athens, and now in a completely different ecosystem of art in Hamburg or in Germany in general?
I say that this is a really complex question because all of these three cultures are shaping me as a person and also my art in different ways. But I realize now I'm 36 and I just started realizing how all these aspects have been influencing my work and also me. And as I said, coming from a conservative country like Cyprus, I think the way that I see also icon painting and how my work develops has a lot, it's really connected to my roots, but starting in Athens and in these turbulent times of the financial crisis shaped my work in a way that cannot be altered. I started using these distorted faces back then because I was 18, studying in a country that I really loved. My grandmother lives in Greece, so I was visiting every summer. And immediately I realized that a crisis is happening, which I have never been faced with as an 18-year-old. And I was alone there trying to figure out how the future will look. And I don't know if you know a lot of Greeks, but Greeks are thought to be warm people, happy, positive. And in these times, everything was changing. These faces were becoming sad, afraid. They couldn't find hope. So I closed myself in my apartment because I needed to overcome this crisis on my own. And this has also to do something with my culture in Cyprus. We don't really openly speak about psychological problems. It's a taboo. So my way of dealing with this problem in society, which was collective and also personal, it was painting. And painting has been since then a way of speaking, a way of trying to understand things that I cannot understand or no one can show me. And also to deal with feelings that are new to me, and these feelings were new to me back then. So I started doing these distorted faces, which I really use until today, because it was my perception of people that I knew as happy and positive in these times of crisis. And coming to Germany, the first 3 years I couldn't paint because painting, as I said, it's a form of speech for me. So here everything was organized, everything was perfect in my eyes. So I thought, what is my reason of being as an artist here in Germany? And then I started finding myself in this new cultural environment, a new ecosystem of art, and trying to connect with people in the art world. And then I realized that we are talking about global crisis and global problems in the world that we should also keep doing in our or mentioning in our work. So there was where I started again with another view, of course, on society from the perspective of Germany, but I see the reason again of why being an artist also in Germany.
Cool. Thank you for sharing this in a huge sincerity. And it seems that thinking about your roots and making a connection with your roots is a very important part of your art, as far as I can get. So then I want to mention your grandma. It seems that your grandma is also a very important figure in your art, because you had your first exhibition at the age of 8 with your grandma, as far as I know, with something very interesting, icons, because it is also very interesting to see the intersection of a holy work, but on the other hand, it is artistic. So can you please elaborate this for us?
Yes. I was 8 when I had the first exhibition with her, and she was the first believer in my work, and also the one who pushed me to keep doing what I wanted, because also being an artist in the Society of Cyprus, it's not welcomed. You have to become a doctor or a lawyer or something that brings money. And a lot of people think that an artist is something secondary, but she realized the power of art, and she wanted to keep showing it to me. So she was teaching me still life and also icon painting, which she also does until today. She became 90 this year, and now she cannot see anymore, but she still kept doing it until now. And I was amazed by these two genres. On the one hand, still life, which is something that has no life in itself, you just see the object, and on the other hand, something that we may objectify. It's a symbol for our culture, for our religion. And at the beginning, and also because I was 8, I couldn't realize this magic behind these paintings and what she was teaching me. But when I came into the university, we had to choose a secondary faculty. My faculty was painting, and we had to choose something secondary, and they were offering icon painting. And I said, I don't want to do this. I don't know why. In the moment, I realized that I don't want to be put in boxes, because icon painting has a lot of rules, and I had the feeling I need to break out of these rules. But then I had no choice, and I had to take the course. So while I was painting, I started crying, and my professor asked me, what is happening? And I said, I cannot do this, because it's really, you have to be concentrated, you have to be patient, and it's something that I didn't have as an 18 years old, also in this subject of the crisis, in this atmosphere. So he told me, you should give it a chance, and I did it. And at the end, I realized that it gives me also something more than painting. It's a kind of meditation, because you dive into a fully other world than when you paint. And I think I've never used icon painting in terms of how the history of icon painting expected to be, but what I'm doing now is using elements of these paintings in my artistic work, like the halo, or maybe some positions of the hands that wants to show something. And then I realized why I was so fascinated about learning this genre, still life, and also icon painting, because it's something taken away from life. It's a narrative that it's being told to us, but this narrative is also something that comes out of life. And if you see it the other way around, these figures also of the Holy Mother, which I also have always on me, for me, it's not a holy person. She is a woman, and because of her history, I'm trying to find also out what is my identity because of her, because also religions are shaping identities. So it's complex to be an artist, expressionist artist, and also icon artist, but I think you can find a way to bring them together in a strong way that also has to say something to the society.
Now that you mentioned the icon and how special it is for you, to interpret the message from an icon, you need a kind of previous knowledge about the encoding and decoding of the symbols, etc. Yes. Do you also have such symbols or encoding, decoding process in your art, or?
I'm working, or I have been working a lot with symbols until now, because I think in the art history there are so many objects that can be shown, or messages that can be shown through symbols, but I believe nowadays we need a more direct language as artists. So I keep using symbols, but I also want to decode my painting for everyone to understand, because I try to give a message. And if it's full of symbols and if it's full of codes, it's a big problem to show it out of the art world and be understood out of the art world. And this is I want to achieve that I can talk with people out of this scene, because we tend to make work for us, for the art world, for the collectors, for the galleries, and I think the achievement would have been to speak with everyone in society, and not just with the elite that understands this kind of symbols and codes.
I think it's one of the most cliche question in art. So the art is for people, or art is for art? Yes. So when I was in high school, our teacher asked us our opinion, and I said, of course, the art is for people. Now that I'm getting older and older, I think that art is, for art. So you also mentioned the breaking the box. Your work explores different areas like aesthetics, sex, gender, and transformation, identity, etc. So how do you define to be out of the box in your work, artistic work?
I think these categories are being seen as rigid, but I believe we could see and project a lot of meanings on them. And out of the box is for me thinking critically through my work and interpret these categories like gender, sexuality, identity from my point of view, in my way, which also means me opening my ears and my eyes to the society to try and understand these categories. Because also back to the subject of religion, religions were made to give the feeling of collectiveness, of togetherness, of belonging, but they also shaped identities and also shaped normatives that we today trying to break and change. And for me, thinking out of the box is rethinking history and rethinking categories that put us in boxes, also people. We are being put in boxes because of these words that have been given to us through history.
Last year we had an artist from Greece, and then we had the possibility to discuss the roots and how do you define the roots in art. So for everyone, the roots and the impact of the roots is different. I think thinking out of the box is the same. So for everyone is a bit different. Some artists are more conventional, old school. Some of them are exploring themes like terror and art. I was mentioning beforehand that terror and art for me is oxymoron. So those are two different fields that I would never put them together. But that's why I'm not an artist. Okay, so it's obvious that I'm not that material. So can you please tell us, how do you combine these two topic, which is for most of us here, are two oxymoron concepts?
It's exactly the reason why I combined them, because for me it was also a big oxymoron to hear these two phenomena in the same sentence, art and terrorism. And I was reading, because I didn't want to make a PhD. It wasn't something that I wanted to do as an artist, because it's in theory, it's in philosophy. But I read somewhere about this famous sentence of Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. He said that 9/11, the attacks in 9/11 in New York were the biggest artwork that the world will ever see. So when I read that, I thought, I have to make a PhD to understand it as an artist, because I come from a generation of artists where it was been told to us the painting is dead. So it means the normative way of painting or seeing art is dead, and I realize it. And I also really am a fan of avant-garde, and also from other ways of seeing art as a medium, and not only putting them in a gallery or in a museum, but putting together terrorism and art was something that I couldn't understand. And now I understand that they have more in common than we think. And actually, I believe that art is helping understanding terror. And also, this is the reason why, for example, the government of Bush, on the war on terror, they invited artists and also directors from Hollywood to try and tell them what will be the next step of the terrorists, because you see that terrorists are keen in creating spectacle, in draw attention, so they need artistic means to do it. Now they have the media, but until they had this opportunity, they were using artists. They were using drawings for the newspapers to show explosions. Now they're using media, but also in a theatrical way that also reminds a lot of symbols and codes of art. And also we have the terrorism has more than 100 definitions, and two of them, one is terrorism is theater and terrorism is performance. They are performing for us, because without media, without attention, there would have been no terrorism, because they needed to fulfill their goal and express. And they're also a form of communication, which also I believe art is. So I found a lot of a common between them, but I show in my work that they cannot be, because human life is also included in terrorism and taking human life. And these were never accepted in the art system, even if we say and use art freedom for us to do things that come out of the box or go beyond boundaries of the art system. We never killed people, and we will never do, and this will never be accepted as well. And I remember in Art Athena, I think it was 2018, I was participating with a project of mine, and an artist had a dog bounded without water and food for the duration of this exhibition, of this art fair. It was, I think, 5 days or 4, and the dog died at the end. And this was his performance. And we all signed that he should be banned from the art fair, and also at the beginning, when we realized that this dog is not having anything for the next 5 days, it was a big list of signatures that from all of the artists and galleries that wanted him out, because we cannot accept that killing is a term of art in any form.
I understand. At least I try to understand your point. I still don't agree with that, because I think it's opening the Pandora's box.
Of course.
Because not every time you can prevent such a performance with signatures or petitions. So again, I'm not an artist, so that's why I have difficulties in understanding. And beside that, you also mentioned that the audience before, so how they actually perceive, interpret the art of work. Do you think that it is a kind of desacralization of art, making it together with terror?
Yes, I believe that the direction that my work took, because I'm your opinion, I don't agree putting them together. And I started, there were 2 scientists that were investigating this relationship on the example of the Rote Armeefraktion, RAF, and also the avant-garde, and they were finding a lot of commons in their artistic aesthetics, artistic language or aesthetics. And then Sebastian Baden wrote his work on the image of terrorism in the art system, which shows also how religion terrorism is using codes of art to communicate. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna investigate how this relationship goes on from the point of 2019. And I realized that this correlationship changed. Today, artists are being called terrorists, and they're put on lists as terrorists. For example, the Zentrum für politische Schönheit in Berlin, it's an artistic collective that are also being, they're making a lot of activist actions in the open space, public space, and they were on a list with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, being followed from the Verfassungsschutz, because, and also they were having their emails checked without knowing it, because they had made an action in front of, or in the opposite house of Björn Höcke, who is a of AfD, politician of AfD. And this Björn Höcke said they are not artists, they are terrorists, and then they started a process against them. Or for example, Pussy Riot in Russia, but okay, there we have another regime which is not to compare until today with Germany, and they're named extremists. They're going to prison if they get caught. Also, the government named their video Punk Prayer as extremist material. So if anyone search this video on YouTube in Russia, can be taken and put in prison just for searching extremist material. And the other example that I'm using in my work is the Letzte Generation. They are activists fighting for our environment and also for our continuous of life, doing it in museums. So they were being called artists, but also they have been called Klimaterrorismus. And this is how the work, my PhD, will end. It's about having a historical correlation, having today as a problem of democracy. Because if we start calling artists without reason terrorists and putting them in the same box, it's a big big problem for our society. And I think this also, and this is a big part of the work, is that art has been so opened in the last decades. You can name a lot of things art, so it comes that you can also have the terrorism phenomenon put on artistic actions, but also terrorism is being used as a proxy and for political interests. There is a sentence, the one's terrorist, the other freedom fighter. And this shows that this openness of both of these definitions is being problematic in their use today, and also used today by far-right parties, and also with artificial intelligence. We have to see where this is going.
Okay, so now that you mentioned activists and activism, so from time to time we see activists throwing some oil or similar materials to masterpieces of art from Van Gogh, etc. So it is also a kind of expression, performance that we can also accept as an art then. So it's a vicious circle. So trying to damage or demolish a piece of art turns into an art. So it's kind of vicious circle. So I'm lost there, to be honest.
I know, this was also, I think we have to have knowledge to be in a position to judge these actions, because I also said at the beginning when I heard about it, it was, I think, Just Stop Oil in London that did the first attacks. I said, no way, you cannot do this, you cannot destroy our culture or parts of our culture in order to show something. But then I read that they are always really careful, and they're choosing paintings that they know they're really good covered by glass. And actually they're not attacking the artwork or the art, but they are attacking the financial value of these paintings. This is why they attack the frame and not the actual painting. But this iconoclastic action was also something that has to do with the tradition of the avant-garde, and this is why they were told to be artists or media artists. But Boris Groys said that they too, as terrorists, are not iconoclasts but iconophile. They want to produce pictures. Through this movement in the museum against this artwork, which is famous, they produce so much photos that are reproduced in the press, and so they achieve their goal to communicate with us about a problem that it needs to be dealt with immediately.
And that's what we call thinking out of the box.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. So another question of mine is about the audience. So you give us lots of details about how to interpret different approach to art. When I was a teaching assistant, the audience, the students, were completely different. And I can say that in the last 20 years, in my whole academic career, I witnessed this dramatic change, not dramatic, but revolutionary change in the audience at least 3 or 4 times. Today we have a completely new generation with different expectations, with different interpretations, not only for art, but for many other things in life. So you started with a very conventional way of art, iconography, and now you're writing your PhD, thinking out of the box. So how do you also consider this change in your work as well as in the audience of yours?
For example, now I'm teaching since 1 year at HW Universität here in Hamburg, and my students are 18 to 19, 20, and what I tell them is that we don't need any more, because they say, I have to paint this glass as I see it. And I ask, why do you have to? Yes, because I want to prove to myself that I can. And I said, we don't need any more realists. Today we have the photography. We also have AI. You can produce pictures without doing anything, just telling the machine what to create. We need people that think out of the box. And this is, I think, as a lecturer, my wish is to, also with my art for my audience, is to make people stop believing and thinking that there is only one right way. Each of us has a gift which he or she can recreate in anything that they want, and it's also good. And they believe that, for example, only realism is the best way to show that I'm a good artist, but it's not. You can be a very good artist in a big range of things that you can use. And also, we should stop or start rethinking what have been given to us as art, as politics. I think thinking and asking, because you also said before when we met that you're curious, and I think this is really important today, to be curious and also critical and ask what is what we're living in, what is what we're experiencing, and also ask yourself, how am I going to be authentic and do what I have to do, but in my own way and not in the way that has been shown to me.
What's your opinion? What kills curiosity and creativity?
I think it's being told or taking the feeling that you are worth something. That, for example, in Cyprus, we have been told, don't ask a lot of questions, especially if you are a woman, don't ask. And I was always afraid of asking. And I had a course at the university, it was called Modern Slavery. And because I'm an outsider coming from the artistic praxis, in the theory, everyone was really compelled with this subject and business and marketing, and I was like, what is this? I was really there because of the subject modern slavery, and I wanted to ask a question which I thought it's a stupid question, and I asked the professor, can I ask a question which I believe is stupid, but I will ask anyway, and she said, there is no stupid question, the question that is stupid is the question that has not been asked. So I believe giving also, and it starts from a small age, giving children the feeling of self-respect, and also that you are worth asking, and your question is also worth being asked. I think this is the most important, and this could kill curiosity and creativity if we are afraid to come out and ask and live.
I also want to discuss with you the topic of technology, because art is also a dependent and also an impacting factor for technology. Mm-hmm. We'll also actually discuss how you perceive the colors, how do you use the colors in your artworks. But first of all, I want to actually discuss the technology and the impact of technology on art. Just this morning we were discussing with our colleague Suhail, who comes for this event especially from Berlin, the head of video production department at BSBI. I was asking him how AI will change the photography. And then I was showing him my fancy photographs, pictures that I created with AI. And then he was so polite to not tell me that it is really bad. So he said, photography will always survive, and it is always be the main pillar for documentation. But he's a professional, and then he knows exactly the mistakes, or the missing part, the gaps in AI work. On the other hand, AI is more and more integrated to art. So how do you perceive it? Because you come from iconography, and then you end with art, terror, and that far. So AI, art, how do you combine them?
I think I'm the worst person asking about technology and art, because I don't use technology in my art, and I'm not a fan of artificial intelligence, but I realize that for society there will be a positive aspect of using artificial intelligence. And also there are a lot of artists that use artificial intelligence critically in their work to show, for example, the faults of these machines. For example, also gender roles, that artificial intelligence can also be racist and discriminating because it's made by this background that we all know in the society. It's like a micrography of the society, but I think using them critically, it's the best answer. I don't know how to do this, and I think I'm gonna have to learn it at a point because the times are changing.
Yeah.
But I prefer in my work working with people. For example, my husband, he's a filmmaker, and we are working together. He's projecting on my paintings because I want sometimes to transfer a message that is more lively, and you can do it, you can achieve it with video. And so I'm painting and using also sculptures, and we are ending or fulfilling this artwork with a video projection on it. He's making the film which tells the story that continues the story of my painting, and this becomes an immersive artwork. But I let him do it. I let him do this part, and I don't really use it. I use social media as a portfolio, Instagram, for example, which I also don't really like, but I'm in a world that needs that. And it's also naive to think that you can get out of it without any social media, websites, and blah, blah. Also, being an artist today means that you can do all of them and also be your own manager. So I do it, and I use it the way that I believe it's for me, it's fine for me. And yes, I'm also really keen to see where it is going. And I also don't believe that it's gonna change the artistic hand. You cannot change human hand you cannot replace it. You can extend it. And if you do it, you should use it in the right way to have this outcome.
And it leads us once again to the dilemma, the art for art and art for people. Yes. So if you want your artistic message to be interpreted or to be perceived by the audience, you should also know them. And nowadays, the audience is totally actually mixed up with technology, AI or digitalization and smartphones and so on. So even at the restaurants we were talking, each meal is prepared like an artwork. Yes. And then most of the times some people are using a plate to share it on social media because they just look nice, but they don't taste good. It's great to talk this topic with you, but I think at some point we will have to lead to our audience to ask some questions. I will have a last question because you mentioned also your work. some of your figures in your art is creating a kind of discomfort, and you are also using interesting colors. Can you please mention, and then we are going to give voice to the audience.
Yes, I believe that society is, because I wanted to say, I believe they should be confronted with also these feelings of disgust and being uncomfortable, but we are anyway in our everyday life, being on social media. I don't remember how many times I said, I'm not gonna use Instagram again, because I open it and I see dead children and I see violence against women, and this is our reality. So I believe showing it through art, which takes also a bit this reality aspect away, because it's an artwork and it's not a photography or a video taken in a scene of horror, should also be put in museums and galleries, because we also need to show society what the reality is, and also give them ways to speak. And this is, for example, the colors that you mentioned. I never paint with dark colors, because I'm also a positive person, also maybe coming from Greece, which is always sunny, and we don't apologize for having someone in a sunny day on a room for a conversation. And I believe we could also find a way of overcoming these problems, or maybe, because I really think in the last days of post-crisis art, we live in crisis. We cannot change them. We cannot change Trump and we cannot change Putin, but we can find together, through community, we can create a livable life. And I think this is why art should show the problems, but also be able to give solutions and to open discussions. Because I cannot give answers, but I can open a discussion, and this is also the reason that I'm an artist.
This is the first stone of domino for curiosity, probably. So
yes.
Thank you for opening.
Thank you so much for the questions.
Yeah, so I think this is the time for the questions of the audience, if you have any. I hope you have some. So you can get the microphone and then ask questions. We can start with our student, if you
Sure.
share. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know exactly how to ask this, but it's stuck in my head. You first said when you moved to Hamburg, to Germany, that you couldn't paint for over 3 years or so because you were trying to overcome a crisis and you felt like everything is so perfect here. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very related to how I felt yesterday, because I don't identify as an artist, but kinda in between, let's say. It's also a big part of my life, and I really enjoy it, and I can relate some of the things you said, and I'm really happy that I could hear all the thoughts you have, and I'm really happy that you have students who also hears that. That's my personal opinion. And yeah, my question is or maybe I missed it, but how did you start painting again? How did you find the motivation to finding
to come back?
Yeah, I wanted to know more about it.
Thank you for the question, and also thank you for your words. It's really nice to hear that I could give something through this conversation. I think when I built an environment for me which was safe, and Germany for me it's a safe space and place until today, I started thinking that as I said, this financial crisis was something that it was a global crisis, and then I realized that there are so many aspects in society that could or should be shown and talked about, that I thought, okay, Penny, you have this gift of painting and also talking to people through it, that you need to keep going. And also for me, painting, I didn't decide to study art. I am an artist since I was born, because it was something that I must do in order to survive. And I think I cannot do anything else, to be honest. So I just had to keep doing it. It was just these 3 years were important for me to find a safety where I feel comfortable in creating. Because also I think safety and also social environment plays a role in your ability to express yourself. So I wish that you also find this safe space and also keep doing art.
Yeah, thank you. I just realized that I didn't add maybe like the important part, but maybe you already like understood it. We, most of us, also like me, are kind of escaping from different crises. And yeah, that's why it was like really important to hear your words, at least from my side.
Yes,
thank you for your.
I realized it, and this is why I said for me Germany is a safe space, because when I talk to Germans, I have the feeling that they don't appreciate what they have, and it's okay, because they have been here the whole time, and we come from other backgrounds. And I really appreciate being here and having my Krankenkasse, and everything is settled for me now. And also as an artist, I don't suffer because I'm an artist. And also I'm being seen like something important in society. It's like every other job, being a doctor or lawyer, being an artist is maybe seen as more important as these jobs in society in Germany, which I realized, and this is why I said for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We can have the next question. Maria?
Unless another student has a question. Yes. I think it's better,
Ladies
and
first.
it was very important that Dr. Okan mentioned it. First, the students.
Okay.
What's up? Oh, sure. Hi. So I wanted to clarify one thing. I didn't really understood what you meant by the art and terror, because I had a follow-up question. Can you explain that to me again once more?
Art and terror.
Yeah. How the artist is a terrorist part. Like, I couldn't understand that properly.
That's Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. It's a musician who said, as a componist, who said that 9/11 in America, the terrorist attacks, were the biggest artwork of the world.
Okay.
And he meant that it was a performance, what the terrorists did. And this was my impulse of trying to find out how he opened his mouth and said this sentence, bringing art and terror together. And what I'm trying to show in my work is that they might have aesthetic similarities, but they are not the same, and they cannot be put in the same sentence as the same thing.
Okay, perfect. Because the reason I brought it up again was recently a Pakistani artist named Rusa Rana did like a display on the Palestinian genocide. And have you seen that? If you know about it, I wanted to know your opinion.
No. But I've heard about this.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of artists that are trying to deal with terror. This is another subject, dealing with terror in your artistic work. And it's another thing to make terror as aesthetical thing and name it art. So a lot of artists are dealing with this terror, and also a lot of institutions are also cancelling exhibitions of Palestinian artists or Israelis because of these subjects.
Thank you very much, both of you, for this wonderful conversation. The feeling for me was as if we entered somehow your personal space, in your house, in your lounge, and we just, sneezed there and listened to your conversation. I'm going to go back to the same topic, art and terror, because not only of the paradox, but because of all the connections and connotations that brings in one's mind. To me, brought a connection to the avant-garde movements and back to the aim of creating polemic art, beginning of 20th century, but between the two world wars, and especially movements like Dada, that they have a purpose, to create art that is provoking, that is not only raising questions, but also, becoming more like a medium of activism. Do you feel that art has to be related and connected to a purpose that will initiate or inspire actions, or can be just left to be art for the sake of art? And then I have a second question, but yeah, let's go into that first.
This is also a difficult question, because I don't believe that art should give the way for terrorist or violent actions, but I also believe that art has to have a reason. And l'art pour art, I think it's not anymore, how do you say, zeitgemäß? It's not anymore in
an axiom, a value.
No, it's not contemporary. Mm-hmm. It needs to find its reason, and I think being political through art is something that we should consider if we're artists, but and without criticizing anyone that wants to do art just for the sake of art. But there is also a very good book by Thomas Hecken and Jean Clair. Jean Clair wrote about the faults of the artists of the avant-garde that they're putting the starts of political terror. And at the end, he also says that maybe we did it as artists, but we are not to be blamed of starting a political or other kind of terrorism. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a full day conversation, so I'm not going to carry on with secondary questions over that. I'm going to ask now a question that is a little bit more personal, and it might be also quite beneficial for our students, because we direct them a lot to think about the context within which they create, mm-hmm. and emphasize a lot the importance of research. So I would like to ask you how your research, your PhD research, and this path that you've taken in that direction has informed your art, and if it has opened up new directions and new ways of working.
Of course, and I think I will never regret doing the PhD as an artist, even though I have been told that I have to choose between theory and praxis, that I cannot be both. And I disagree, because I believe artists, any kind of artist, should be informed, and without this information we cannot produce, because otherwise we reproduce also false meanings sometimes if we are not informed, and we are not contemporary. So our art shouldn't be seen if we're not saying something that is needed to be said. And I believe this research part also changed my way of thinking, and it makes me think critically and also search for the truth in many sources and not take the first answer that is given to me as the answer. And I believe also knowing history is giving us the opportunity to break it. And if we don't know the rules, we cannot break them. So I really think that research is valuable in any kind of work.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Funny enough, my question has already been asked, actually, and answered. There you are. But maybe I could quickly think of another one on the spot. So I'm really interested in, I guess, the impact of your journey with your cultural identity since coming here. I would really love to know a little bit more about that, and also the impact it had in your work sort of recently as well. Yes.
As I said, I'm Cypriot,
yes,
and it's a very conservative island that is also really formed from religion and from church. So now I became a mother before 3 years. And just then I realized how this cultural environment formed me as a woman. And this is also a subject that I'm now dealing with in my art, the role or the identity of a woman. Because in Cyprus and maybe also in Greece, becoming a mother means stop being a woman, stop being you for yourself, stop being everything else that you are, and also being criticized if you choose the way of being a lot. And I believe people in general, but also women, we have a lot of roles and we can do this. This is also the nice part of it. And I think our history in Cyprus showed that the mother figure is really being respected, but then you're not anymore the woman you have been. And when I became a mother, I had the feeling not being enough artist, not being enough mother, not being enough woman, not being enough friend. And then I realized that this culture that I bring in me puts me in this box of thinking, now you're a mother, but I wanted to be an artist, which is also being a woman artist, a mother artist in a mainly dominated art world, it's not that easy. And then I realized, okay, I have to talk about it openly, and I created a series on this motherhood subject because I was trying to hide that I'm pregnant also, because I was afraid to being criticized and to be stopped seeing as an artist and seeing as a mother. And this is what I now do in my work, and it's also like a psychoanalysis for me to realize who I am as a woman, even now with 36, but I have this possibility through art, and also because I'm being in Germany. And being in Germany and getting out, being detached from this environment of Cyprus, I create my own identity. And in Cyprus and Greece, your identity is being projected on you from the outside. So for me, it's also a big thing to have this space here to recreate myself and also my art.
Okay, amazing. So, as you said, it's a safe place, isn't it?
Yes.
Exactly. Okay, great. Thank you. I'll pass on the mic to Jonas now, or anybody else?
Any other questions?
Oh. Okay.
Maria asked all the questions.
Okay, so we have a very group of students, and we are very proud of them because they are really brilliant, and they come from different programs of ours. Game design, we have foundation students, visual communication, UX, So you really opened us a window that you were mentioning in my office previously. Thank you very much for inspiring us. So do you have a kind of, I wouldn't say advice, maybe it is too arrogant to use, but do you have anything to tell to this precious audience?
I think the only thing is really keep being authentic and being yourself and being true to yourself and do what you want and do what you love. And it's no way that you cannot achieve at the end. That's what you're, even in a personal relationships or in your professional work, just being authentic is for me the most important thing. And I would also like to invite you all to my studio. If you want to create studio visits, I would be more than happy to do that.
We'll definitely do that. We'll visit you in your studio, that's for sure. Dear guests, dear colleagues, dear students, and dear followers on YouTube, thank you very much for joining us today at Café Artistique. I think that we had one of the most interesting episode of Café Artistique today. Thank you very much for joining us, dear Penny. I will also like to thank our provost, Professor Kyriakos Kouveliotis, for his regular support to organize this event, as well as our coordinator, Dr. Nilüfer Amirpour, as well as the video production team, Claudio and Suhail, and Lalit as well, from the admin team, marketing team. Thank you very much, and we are looking forward to seeing you in our next episode of Café Artistique. Thank you very much.
Thank you.